to that.
Well, I was just going to comment on Mystic Mike.
Oh, go on.
Well, just you sat down. What was it? Yesterday lunchtime.
Yesterday lunchtime.
You thought, well, is it going to work? Probably not. Can't see how this is actually going to work in practice. And then Mystic Mike comes good because front page of the Times, of course, migrants can now use human rights laws to evade deportation.
Yeah.
And if they throw their passport over the side of the boat and they've got no way of identifying exactly how old they are, they can claim to be under 18 and they can evade.
And they can evade it. Well, I'd like to say, I've got a piece in the Sun today on page 10, and without wishing to blow my own trumpet, this is my favourite paragraph. It's the third paragraph from the end. Of all the harebrained schemes to smash the gangs, stop the boats, fix the system and secure our borders, yes, Sir Keir Starmer has promised to do all four, this is perhaps the worst of all. And it is. It turns out that it actually is the worst idea they've ever had, which is quite a thing.
But this was the deal. This was the deal struck with the French President Emmanuel Macron, and it's unworkable. And they may be able to do it initially, right? Because what is it, 50 migrants, something like 50 migrants a week, right? It's nothing compared to the scale of the problem we face.
It's 1/17th, isn't it, of the numbers coming?
Yeah, right. But the whole point is that this was a pilot scheme. We were told. The Prime Minister stood there and said, well, look, if this goes well, then we can expand the scheme.
Yeah.
But there are so many cases using various articles of the European Convention on Human Rights that are blocking up the court system. They'll soon come unstuck. And they'll soon run out of people who are eligible. And it's also worth remembering that within all of this, it's a one-in, one-out scheme. Right. So if we send somebody back, we've got to take somebody in. Well,
these are the questions I was asking in the piece that appears in the paper today. You know, because yesterday when Yvette Cooper appeared on various, different television channels, not this one, I hasten to add, there was no explanation of exactly how these people were going to be detained. You know, she described them as going to be detained quickly. And you go, well, what does that mean? Does that mean you're detaining them as they come off the boat? Yeah. Does it mean you're going to detain them after you send them to a hotel? What's defined quickly? And then they would be deported within weeks. And you kind of go, OK, so your original plan, which was to take people off boats, detain them immediately and send them straight back, is clearly not going to work. No. And it's not going to happen. And then it turns out that many of them will be able to actually delay their deportation because they can hire a lawyer, presumably at taxpayers' expense, to make sure that they can stay. Yeah. So nothing's actually changed. No, and it's worth... So one in, one out doesn't matter.
It's worth also remembering the protests aren't... we see the pictures on our television screens, we see the pictures on social media, we see the pictures in our newspapers of people arriving in these dinghies. Yeah. But people, the general public who are infuriated, your listeners who are infuriated by this, aren't at the cliffs of Dover going, look, there's a boat of people arriving. They're at the hotels saying, hang on a moment, what's happened? We've got a problem with our community here, or there isn't enough space in... those are their concerns. Yeah, absolutely. Right? We saw what happened.
Or somebody from inside of the hotel has committed a sex crime against a child.
And there's we saw that up in Epping, and obviously that's a live case at the moment, so we can't comment on it. But that's where the pinch point is. Yeah. And this scheme, if you're saying, okay, well, we've sent somebody back to France, we've now got to accept somebody in who hasn't come across the channel as part of the wider EU scheme to distribute migrants who've arrived from North Africa and from other parts of the world like Afghanistan into the European Union. So and that they will be still contributing to the numbers at hotels from Epping all the way up to the north of England and beyond.
Exactly, and that is the problem, and that there is no sense that there's a control being put upon the flow. So the flow continues, the numbers continue to grow, and even if the one in, one out scheme did work, as somebody explained yesterday, who rang in with a voice note, if you get 50,000 coming in and you send 50,000 back, they then give you another 50,000. It's still, the net result is you've got 50,000 more people.
Precisely.
So it's not a clampdown on immigration, it's a sort of a finessing of immigration to the point where you say, well, now we're only inviting people in, by the way, who can now apply online in France to come here. So my contention in the piece in the Sun is that it will actually encourage more people to come to France, because they will know that if they apply online, there's a pretty good chance they'll get in. Yeah. And they'll get in legally. Yes. And presumably they won't even have to come on a small boat, they can just get on a plane.
Yes.
It's insane. It's totally insane. And they still haven't explained how it is that they're going to deport these people once they decide to deport them. How are they sending them back to France? They don't say. Are they going back on a boat? Are the Border Force taking them? Are an ally taking them? Are they going on a Eurostar? Are they getting on a plane? Nobody knows.
And the
government doesn't seem to know.
And the other thing is that Emmanuel Macron, you know, as he stood there and he said, well, we've seen the problem in northern parts of France, places like Calais. We've seen those problems right across the United Kingdom, by the way. He's not actually necessarily going to take the hit on this. He's going to pass it on to countries like Spain or Greece or Italy, because, of course, these were the countries into which these people first arrived, and they have an agreement in the European Union. They can send them back there, and that will cause a huge... You know, that's going to cause a huge... And they may well refuse.
Yes.
And then what happens?
Well, that's the problem. The European Union is not keen on this returns policy at all. Let's have a look at what Keir Starmer put out on his Twitter account last night on the returns to France.
Completely unprecedented scale.
What's he talking about? You know, nobody wants more people to come in, first of all, right? So that's his first mistake. The idea that he says we're going to get different individuals to come in, oh, great. So another 50,000 people that we don't know from another country who might be bringing relatives with them to do what? I don't know. Go on, benefits.
Their nationwide crackdown on illegal working. What was that? That was when the Sun did the story.
That was when they went round to one hotel and lifted a couple of guys with bikes,
and then arranged a meeting, and then got a junior minister in the Home Office to arrange a meeting with Deliveroo and a couple of other delivery companies.
And say, wag your finger at them and go, you can't be doing this. You know.
And that nationwide crackdown where they're going to share information about migrant hotels with the delivery companies.
Surely you must have noticed that, you know, now the nationwide crackdown has resulted in all the Deliveroo bikes now being driven by white people. No, actually, sorry. It's the whole thing is a joke, and it's a pathetic, useless, expensive joke, because it also means that we're going to be bringing more people into the country, adding to the population, adding to the welfare bill, because they're encouraging families to come. And as I said, if people now can apply online to get into Britain legally, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think less people are going to try, or more people are going to try?
It's obvious, right?
More people are going to try. And, you know, this idea that they're all going to be documented. So if you've got a family of 4 from Eritrea who have suddenly, you know, fled their way across North Africa into Spain or into Italy and worked their way across Europe through Germany, through Switzerland, into France, how are you going to document these people? You don't know who they are. No. They can tell you anything. I'll tell you what we've got is an amazing piece of footage from Spain, actually, and this is where people are watching, and this is an extraordinary piece of video. Imagine being on holiday, sitting there with your family, kids, you know, digging in the sand,
pina colada
in hand, you know, a couple of cervezas for the grandparents, you know, and then suddenly you look out and you see this as you're sitting at the beach.
Hey. Oui.
This is, I know it sounds mad, this is the kind of thing that's happening. Look, they're trying to catch this guy as he's running up the beach. Yeah. Because they're like, you know, to hell with this, we're not having you just coming to our country. And the fact that you see the boat backing away there, as if it's going to go back to... It's a taxi service going back to probably, I don't know, Algeria or somewhere, pick up another 70 and bring them over to southern Spain. It's extraordinary. Yeah. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this.
That sort of brazen.
This brazen, I mean, I remember over the course of the last few years we've seen boats pitching up in Spain and people running off into the distance. But it's just becoming such a massive business now. And you know, in truth, you know, let me even give Keir Starmer a little bit of you know, sympathy. I don't think anybody knows what to do about all this. I don't think anybody knows how to stop it. You know, but the only way that you're going to stop it, and I'm sorry to say it this way, is to use military force and to make people frightened of coming. That's the only way you're going to stop it. If you come to our shores, there's a risk you're going to get shot dead. That's about the only way you can do it.
Yeah.
Honestly. They did it in Hungary like that. You know, when they used to have people coming in through Serbia from places like Turkey, and the first time that somebody breached a fence, I think, the Hungarian immigration authorities shot a migrant dead, and guess what? They stopped coming.
Yeah. But
I know it sounds harsh, and I'll probably be castigated for it. Absolutely evil, horrible man. What a thing to say. We're now talking, you know, defence of the realm.
I mean, that's what Nigel Farage and Reformers said. He said it's a national emergency.
It is a national emergency.
But even before you get to that point, Mike, the thing is that these individuals can work in this country.
Yeah.
They get paid. They get comfortable accommodation in this country. We've seen, the Britannia Hotel, which is being used at
we had footage
£400
last week of the Copthorne down in West Sussex in Crawley, where people are living
4-poster beds and PlayStations and all the rest
smoking in the rooms, you know, weed grinders, all the rest of it, 3 meals a day. It's great.
So that you can take that element, you can take that element away. The problem, of course, is it's going to get worse. But then
where do you put them? You know, I think Anne Widdecombe had it right. She said, you forget about the hotels, you build detention camps, basically, and you put people in detention camps until they can be sort of properly examined as to whether they've got a right to be here. We've got to do away with all this nonsense from the ECHR, which says that everybody's got a right to a family and a right to live in whichever country they want. This is something which has now reached such critical mass that this country is on the brink of collapse as a result of this kind of mad immigration policy.
The other thing they can do, and I know it's unpopular, but the other thing they can do, this is what the French do quite successfully, is they have ID cards.
Yeah.
So when the police pull somebody over, show your ID card, they can scan the ID card, they know exactly what rights that person has. You go to a hospital, where's your ID card? Yes, you have rights.
Right. So what happens if you don't have the ID card?
Then they detain you.
And then they send you where?
You're right.
That's my point.
That's another part of the problem.
That's another part of the problem. It's all very well to say, all right, we know who you are. However, if you don't have the right to be there and you don't have the right to the services that you're accessing, you know, how do you get sent out of the country? And at the moment, again, as I said, there's no apparent plan for Yvette Cooper's, you know, deportation scheme to work. How are we sending these people back to France? Nobody knows, and they won't say.
And the other thing is that, and Boris Johnson, I know, has commented on it. It's in the Mail this morning that Trump's now
sending people to Rwanda.
That was another huge. That was another huge part of it.
Yeah.
Now that might only be a small scheme, but if you could set up multiple versions of the Rwanda scheme, then you could end up in a situation where actually I think from what I've seen, you need to get to you only get to the deterrent effect when you get to when it gets to about 8 in 10. 8 in 10 are deported back, right? So I think Rwanda was something like 250.
Well, look at what Donald Trump's done.
Scheme.
Trump has managed to put the fear of God into people, whether or not, and I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, and they said, but a lot of what Trump says, I think it was Dan Hodges, doesn't actually happen, but his rhetoric is that if you come to America and you're not welcome here, we will send you straight back and you will never come in again.
Or you go to
alligator Alcatraz, and so the sort of the fear of that has meant that people have stopped coming. So that when he was in Turnberry, he was able to say to Starmer, how many people came into the US last month illegally? None. Not one.
Because they didn't.
Because they're frightened, and you've got to frighten them. I'm sorry, you know, it's the only thing that people understand at the end of the day: fear. If you fear what might happen to you, you won't do it. But if you don't fear it, of course you're going to do it. It's 6:20. We've got loads to talk about. Theo Usherwood is here. If these human rights lawyers, says Carl, weren't being paid by the public purse, they wouldn't be there. That would help to halt the flow of these foreigners. Yes. And Dean says, surely the European Court of Human Rights is misnamed. After all, it certainly seems to totally ignore the human rights of the British and European people. Says Dean from Dagenham. Yeah, absolutely right. Listen, keep those calls coming in. We haven't even started on Rachel Reeves yet because she's back in the news. Let's get Andy on the French deal.
Morning, Mike. Morning, Theo. Andy from Birmingham. Just stuck in traffic forever on the M6 again. Bloody hell, why do I bother? I was on social media yesterday and John Renton kept on urging everybody, read it first, read it before you comment on it. This immigration, this pilot scheme, as they're saying. Well, I've read it, and it's quite possibly the worst thing I've ever read. Net migration's not going to go down at all. And we're paying for everything, apparently. We're paying to get them from France. We're paying to take them back, if we do take them back. It's just a fluff again. There's no will in this government whatsoever to stop this. You could stop it within weeks if you want. Well, if Donald Trump could stop it, and ours is a minute scale compared to his, it's just kicking the can down the road. And the Home Secretary was a disgrace yesterday. Absolute disgrace. Anyway, it's a nice day, mate, so let's enjoy. See you later, bud.
Andy, thanks very much indeed. How can you be in a traffic jam at 6:20 in the morning in Birmingham on the M6? I mean, crikey, poor old Andy. And he's right, you know, we'll play the clip later on in the hour. Yvette Cooper yesterday, they just waffle on and say what they think we want to hear.
But they're not prepared. They're not prepared to take, and this is going to be the painful bit of it. They are not prepared to take the difficult decisions.
No.
There is a way out of it. Yeah. But you have to be prepared to say to the, you know, we are leaving the European Convention on Human Rights. We're prepared just to put that to one side.
And there will be no appeal process. If you come here illegally, you will not have the right to a lawyer. You will not have the right to argue your case in court. Yeah. You will be put straight on a plane and you will be sent back to France forthwith. Not quickly, not soon, not in a week, not in a few weeks, which is what they've been saying, you know, straight away. Anyway, listen, we'll come back, because we were going to start talking about Rachel Reeves, but we haven't got there yet. Theo Usherwood has derailed me. It's fine, it's perfectly fine. Of course, I couldn't big up myself in the sun, but you've done a very good job of it. 23 minutes past 6, back after this. Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6:26. I'm Mike Graham. Theo Usherwood is here with us as well. We've got loads to do this morning, plenty of stories to talk about. I thought we'd make a little sort of retrek, if you like, back to what was said yesterday. The news coming from America, by the way, is that Florida has doubled down on alligator Alcatraz, and they're going to build a second migrant centre, presumably with more alligators. And again, as Dan Hodges said yesterday, it doesn't really matter if the alligators actually attack anyone. It's just the idea that people go, oh, crikey, I don't really want to be, you know, surrounded in a swamp by alligators in case they decide to come and eat me.
And it's much cheaper because you don't need the barbed wire.
And you don't need the barbed wire. Exactly right. Let's get a voice note from Nick.
Morning, Mike and Theo. Nick from Loughborough. When Yvette Cooper talks about these illegals being detained, nobody knows what she means. Where, specifically, where does she intend to detain them? Or is she just going to stick them all in hotels as she's currently doing so? Anyway, I don't know, and the country is confused. Have a good day, guys.
Exactly right. Well, let's ask Yvette Cooper, because this is what she said yesterday about how this one-in, one-out scheme is actually going to work. Have a look at this.
The first time people who arrive on these dangerous and illegal small boats can be returned to France. They will be first detained. They'll be detained immediately on arrival and then detained and held until they are returned to France. And in exchange, we will take people who have applied lawfully, who have been through security checks and a proper legal process. I think that is the right principle. We're not setting out what the numbers will be at this point for two reasons. First of all, because those numbers will vary and will increase, and we haven't fixed an overall number for the scheme. We obviously want it to increase as much as possible. But also, secondly, because we're not going to provide operational information about which numbers, which days that the criminal gangs will then simply use in order to continue to ply their vile trade in human beings.
I mean, it's just word salad, isn't it, at the end of the day?
It doesn't make sense.
It means nothing.
It means
nothing. Deporting people, which she's already conceded she can't do because many of them will challenge it in the courts. You know, arresting people, no. Detaining people, where? You know, there's so many questions and no answers.
So when people arrive in this country, usually on a border force boat or on a RNLI or whatever, they're already under the control of the authorities. They are then placed into hotels. From listening to what the Home Secretary said in that particular clip, she seems to be implying that there will be an assessment at that point when they arrive in this country as to whether they can be deported. But that isn't correct.
No, but also at what point? At the point at which they disembark from or jump off the dinghy? Is that when they're going to be assessed? Is it going to be when they get to a hotel? Is that when they're going to be assessed? They don't say.
So you would look at this and you would say, well, actually, you can get an exemption at any particular point. Right. Because you can say, well, you can't prove that I'm under 18, therefore I'm not eligible for this scheme. I'm now launching, you know, a legal case because I'm claiming
And you can also claim to be vulnerable. You can claim all of the things you can claim now. I can't be sent back to where I come from because I'm frightened of being persecuted for being homosexual, or for being, a divorcee, or for being, a sex toy salesman, or all the things we've already seen happening. Yeah. Or you just say I'm a Nigerian storyteller, and then you get in on a visa scheme. The whole thing is to cock. It's absolutely useless. Let's move on just for the moment. As much as the migrant story, we want to hear from you all on it because it's still the biggest story in town. But Rachel Reeves now is back on the front pages. Yeah. Front page of the Sun and the Telegraph. Chancellor Rachel Reeves must find £50 billion in tax rises or spending cuts to shore up Britain's battered finances. This is according to some economic experts. I'm not keen on these economic experts that say raise taxes because the people don't want her to raise taxes. Find some other way. So this is a report out from the National Institute of Economic and Social Research, which is actually quite sort of right-leaning. It's not quite the same as the Institute for Fiscal Studies. It's more on the right. Yeah. I don't know if they're advocating increasing taxes, but they're saying that there is a black hole of. They're saying there's no choice. There's no choice, right? And one of the reasons there's no choice, Mike, is because the Chancellor's ruled out cutting spending. Yeah. She can't cut spending because her backbenchers won't allow it. Right. She tried to cut it by £5 billion a year on welfare. But even that was a sort of a pithy attempt because it wasn't really about cutting spending, was it? It was about not spending more in the future. Yeah. It was about not spending an extra £5 billion, But in the sums baked in to try and save the money over the course of Parliament, she balked. She couldn't do it because the backbenchers wouldn't allow her to do it. Right. And she's got these ironclad fiscal rules, which means that we can't borrow for day-to-day spending. That's in order to keep the money men and women in the City of London happy, so they don't have a complete revolt and we end up with having to go to the cap in hand to the IMF, which I think at this point is probably quite a distinct... It's looking quite likely, isn't it? Possibility. Yeah. So she's going to have... But what I think infuriate your listeners about this is that last autumn when she increased taxes by £40 billion, they promised, Keir Starmer promised, they wouldn't come back with a budget like that again. No, exactly. They wouldn't. Yes, there may be tax rises in the future, but they wouldn't increase taxes like that again. This is going to be even worse. Well, exactly right. Because they can't stick to anything, right? They say one thing and they do another. Let's have a look at what Rachel Reeves said back in July about tax rises.
Well, I'm not going to start speculating or setting out plans. No Chancellor would ever do that. So the things in our manifesto, they remain our commitments. And when we've got a date for the budget, then we will start working on plans for that. I've been very clear as well, and we were in our manifesto, that the fiscal rules are non-negotiable. They are what give working people security around interest rates, for example. And interest rates have come down 4 times in the last year under this Labour government because of the stability that we've managed to return to the economy.
I mean, is she literally taking the mickey out of the country now? Because she's doing that thing where she smiles, and if you smile when you're talking, it makes it all so much better. I'd forgotten how useless she is. I'd literally forgotten. Watching her again, you just kind of go, what's wrong with you? But we're here because of those choices. We're in a doom loop. We are. So we raise taxes. It's not even a loop anymore. It's just a spiral straight down, into the floor. But by increasing taxes, we hit business confidence. They're not investing. They're not taking people on. They're cutting back on costs. That's making it therefore. Story today says 1,000 pubs have shut since her budget in November. 1,000 pubs. That's 1,000 pubs where they're not paying any national insurance now because they're not paying any. No VAT. No VAT on no alcohol duty. No. That's just money lost. Yeah. The point, and this was the point that Donald Trump was making to Starmer when he was at Turnberry, was you cut taxes. Yeah. Businesses want to invest, they want to spend money, they want to expand their operations. People actually want to set up businesses because it's suddenly much more alluring, it's much more, it's worth taking the risk, whereas previously it may not have been. And then you end up with people just paying a fair amount, a decent amount of national insurance or income tax or business rates or whatever it might be into the coffers, and you end up with more money. Yeah. Now we're in a situation where we have less money coming into the Treasury, and all of these spending commitments... And every single manoeuvre that the government have made to raise taxes has had the absolute reverse effect. So they're actually netting less income from the tax burden that they're putting on the public than they've ever done. And we're seeing consumer confidence hit. Many people would make decisions not to go out and spend money. It's shocking. It's absolutely shocking. That's why we're in this mess. This isn't
it's not an accident. Don't let anybody.
No.
Don't listen to that and think.
No.
Nobody should listen to that and think, oh, they're doing really well, and it just hasn't gone quite to plan.
Listen to what she said.
That was a mistake.
She literally just said in that interview in July, you know, the stability in the economy has been created by us, and we brought interest rates down 4 times. One, nothing to do with the government. The interest rates have come down, and the economy is not stable. No. So again, more lies. Maybe we should remind ourselves of why Rachel Reeves was chosen for the job.
It will also be the first budget delivered by a woman ever. That is a moment of pride. When Rachel Reeves stands up, she will be making history. And I can tell you, young women and girls across the country will be watching, they will look up, and they will notice.
Yeah, and they'll say, what a complete and utter numpty that bloke is. I mean, 10 months earlier, he didn't know what a woman was. Now he's suddenly making one the Chancellor. Brilliant. Well played. We've got much more to do, including Gary Lineker back on the front pages. He's left Match of the Day. He's going to host a new Saturday night show on ITV. Lineker back on the box, it says, and his visage staring out at us. Also, we'll be talking about Marks and Spencer's. Apparently, they're back in the deep doo-doo because a trans worker apparently tried to help a young girl aged 14 put a bra on. And lots of people are not happy about that, including J.K. Rowling. Also, civil service sickness rates are soaring. They're not coming back to work. And Angela Rayner's war with Jeremy Corbyn over allotment. That's a bit weird. 6:36. Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham at 6:38. Theo Usherwood is here with us as well. Rachel says, morning Mike and Theo. I know this might sound like a stupid question, so forgive me in advance, but if you are genuinely an asylum seeker, truly fleeing persecution and conflict, then why dispose of your passport? It would only serve to back up your account, wouldn't it? Well, yeah, I think so. I think, you know, if it's one thing to say I never had a passport, I basically, you know, fled from my country with the clothes that I'm wearing and the shoes that I could manage to grab out of the box on the way out, and I don't have my passport because I couldn't find it. That's one thing. But most of the people we know have actually chucked their passport into the water with their phones. Let's get a voice note from Phil.
Phil here from the northwest of England. Just a thought, these 50 that are going back to France, what are the French going to do with them when they get there? Now, if I was a betting man, I would say that these 50 would end up back in the camps and back on our shores with a matter of weeks, because the French don't want them, which will then just set off a merry-go-round of 50 people going back and forth across the channel, and the numbers actually never going down, but just increasing day after day, when more and more and more of them make that crossing.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, one of the things, again, that I say in my piece in The Sun is that by telling people they can now apply to come here legally, regardless of what their circumstances are, regardless of where they've come from, as long as they've got proof of identity and perhaps some kind of link to the country, then more people are going to come. So it's actually going to encourage people to come to this country in even greater numbers, isn't it?
There's just another point just to add to what Phil was saying as part of this scheme, is that they will be, you know, the French don't particularly want these people, so they're going to distribute these, they're going to be distributed amongst other countries within the European Union. That's why we know there's already a significant amount of opposition, particularly from countries like Greece, Spain and Italy. Yeah. But you're right to say, once they've been sent on to those countries, there is nothing to then stop them travelling back through France and then to, you know, as it's become known in those circles as El Dorado, back to the UK because of the pull factors that we've been discussing.
Because as long as they get here, they know that they will never have to leave, and they know that they will be looked after and they will be provided for. Because there's no explanation in any kind of Labour policy document that I can see that if we say that Keir Starmer says these are people that deserve to come here because they've come through legal routes, right? When they get here, how are they going to live? Are they going to be supported by the taxpayer? Are they going to be given a home? Are they going to be put in a hotel? Are they going to be put in some kind of migrant camp? You know, how exactly are they going to have the ability to eat? Are they, you know, going to be subsidised? Are they going to be given money? You know what I mean? It's just like it's completely.
You think that at some point, once those people have arrived in this country, that they would in fairly short order receive leave to remain in this country,
yes, but
even if it's temporary, and that will enable them to work.
Well, yes, but they'll also, if they can't find work, they'll be on benefits.
Yes.
You know.
Yes, I'm not disputing you.
I mean, they should find work.
Yeah,
they should. Well, a condition of them coming here should be that you find work and that you have work and you don't get benefits for 5 years or something like that. Yeah. But that's not what they're saying. Yeah. They're saying, come to Britain and we'll sort of take it from there, which inevitably will mean that you'll have to probably get benefits. Let's talk about Gary Lineker, who doesn't need any benefits. He's on the front page of The Sun this morning, 3 months after his BBC exit, exclusive by Clemmy Moody. Gary Lineker is to return to Saturday Night TV, hosting a new ITV game show called The Box.
Yes, I've got a bit of a problem with this.
Have you?
Yeah, I've got a bit of a problem with this because you know, towards the end of his career at the BBC, like when he reposted that particular image, that anti-Semitic image,
yes,
he apologised, right, and then he did this sort of
he made out it was a mistake,
and then he made out it was a mistake. Well, he initially made out it was a mistake. Then he apologised amid the furore, and now he's got a plum gig or looking like he's going to get a plum job at ITV. And I'm not. What's the message? Are we saying that's okay? Right. Because from what he said, it wasn't okay, and now he's got a great job at ITV. I mean, and I would have thought that given the severity of the stuff that he tweeted, or he shared, I think it was on Instagram even. Yeah. But given the severity of what would be that actually another broadcaster like ITV wouldn't want to employ him, but it appears not.
Well, it appears that, as ever with television, hypocrisy is the rule of thumb. And, ITV, don't forget, are sacking like hundreds of people at the moment because they haven't got any money. But they've obviously found some money to pay Gary Lineker. I am less concerned about Gary Lineker working for ITV than I am about him working for the BBC. When he worked for the BBC, he should have behaved in a way that was, exemplary, and he shouldn't have been saying the things that he was saying on social media. If he's working for ITV, that's a different ballgame. But I would suggest that they're probably getting themselves into a bit of a hot water situation because you know exactly what's going to happen. He'll tweet something and there'll be a problem. And it won't be because he's publicly funded, but it'll be because ITV don't like controversy.
Yeah,
because they've shied away from it for years.
But if they're giving him this box program that he wants to, that they want him to
12 celebrities are going to be put in boxes and given daring challenges. Sounds awful.
But it's not my cup of tea.
Absolutely
but
awful.
He's going to, ITV need to accept he's going to be, a major, given his status, he's going to be a major face of their channel. And to your point, what happens when the next round of tweets or messages or social media posts come about?
I know, that'll be interesting. And then otherwise, just in the world of TV, anti-Semitic incidents have hit a 6-month high, a day after punk duo Bob Dylan's controversial Glastonbury gig. This is on page 16 of The Sun. A total of 26 people were reported after rapper Bobby Villan chanted death, death to the IDF during his set at Glastonbury. Nothing seems to have happened about this, right? I'm not even sure if he's been questioned by the police. Tim Davie seems to have dodged another bullet and still remains as chief of the BBC, even though he was the guy that actually said that the set, which was incredibly offensive and anti-Semitic, should be streamed live. The BBC don't seem to have sacked anybody for it. I think they've sort of shuffled around a few of the deck chairs of the Titanic and moved a couple of people from live music coverage. But basically he hasn't been arrested, he hasn't been charged with anything. Incitement of violence. There's a woman called Lucy Connolly sitting in a prison cell, having put a tweet out which was taken down after 3 hours. This guy broadcast to the world practically death to the IDF, and he's still walking around. How does that work?
I don't know. I don't know, but if you think back, Mike, to he got lost. Everybody was talking about ITV and some dimwit's decision to broadcast this, to live stream this particular part of the concert with these anti-Semitic chants. Right? They made that decision to do it. But what got lost was that this was a man who stood up on stage and was making death chants to tens of thousands of people,
and plus the people watching it live,
and all of the people, and that has an effect because that acts. If those idiots are watching that and think, oh well, look at him, well, he's so death to the IDF, what a great guy, that's going to translate into anti-Jewish hatred.
Actual harm,
and people getting hurt, and people being attacked or abused in the street. It's not a zero-sum game. It doesn't just disappear into the ether.
No.
And the police are saying, well, you know, say inquiries are continuing in relation to the comments. They should be taking a really hard line.
Which inquiries exactly are they?
Why, when it happened at the end of June? It's nearly 6 weeks on.
Let's cut to the Glastonbury Police Department, where they're all sitting there going, all right, how's it going then? There's a bloke over there who's grown a thorn. It's a bit bigger than it ought to be, you know, but it's some kind of... Joseph.
This is my favourite impression of all your impressions.
Joseph of Arimathea was here, you know, a few years ago, and we didn't arrest him because he was walking on water and all that. And you go, what are you doing? What's the inquiry? Yeah. There he is on stage saying death to the IDF, inciting violence. Why have you not arrested him? Well, it's a bit quiet today. We haven't got anybody in, you know. What's going on?
Well, they're scared. They're scared.
Why? What are they scared of?
They don't want to inflame.
They don't want to arrest anyone.
Tensions.
They're the police. You know what I mean? It's like ridiculous.
They don't want it.
I don't know.
That would be the only assumption. Either that, or they're literally, as you, I think, insinuating, a bunch of country bumpkins sitting in a cornfield twiddling their thumbs because they've never come across any criminal
arresting
case.
people for making crop circles around the Glastonbury tour. You know. Never mind this guy. Maggie says this one in, one out isn't going to work. We're going to import most of Afghanistan, Eritrea, Sudan, etc. Our country will change beyond recognition. Where will they all live? I give in. It's a very good point. You know, we keep, you know, whatever this one in, one out bollocks is, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. My apologies for this early in the morning. The point is that there's more people coming in. There's nowhere for them to live. There's nowhere for them to go. No. There's no space anymore. We haven't got any bandwidth. We can't take any more people in. Starmer's answer to that is, let's bring some more people in.
Yeah.
Right? It's just ridiculous. Let's get a voice note from Phil. No? We've done Phil. Oh, sorry. My apologies. I'll tell you what, we'll take a break. We'll come back after this. Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6:51. I'm Mike Graham, and we are here, myself and Theo Usherwood, looking through the papers. And this morning, a couple of things we haven't yet mentioned, so let's try and get to them. Front page of the Times, an investigation they've done. Always good investigations they do at the Times. Oliver Wright, George Greenwood, David Wood, Paul Morgan Bentley as well, head of investigations. Government faces questions over cash for access after a Times investigation found that businesses have been offering private meetings with an influential Labour figure, apparently, as part of a sponsorship package costing £9,500. I mean, I would not pay you 9.5 pence to spend time with an influential Labour figure, but I suppose some people are stupid enough to do it.
There must be one.
There really, literally isn't one. No. I mean, I would make them pay me. I would make them pay me. If Keir Starmer wants to give me 10 grand for a meeting, you know, I'll take the 10 grand, but I'm not giving him any money.
Right, yeah. I mean,
because what would you get out of it?
The hypocrisy.
Fixing the foundations.
No.
Rachel Reeves, I mean, you know, I wouldn't pay her, I wouldn't give her any money.
No, but this is, I mean, you know, this is how the parties finance themselves, and they're in danger, of course, falling into the same trap as other, you know, they criticise the Tories for this kind of thing, of this cash for access, these. You know, and it turns out the companies have been sent a prospectus with a list of sponsorship packages, including a deal costing £7,850 plus VAT for private breakfast or dinner round table with an influential Labour figure. They've also been offered the chance to pay £11,750 for a parliamentary panel event with key policymakers.
Right.
The important point, and it's worth never losing
They shouldn't
sight
be doing
of,
this, in other words, right?
They shouldn't be doing this, but the important point is that when Labour or any political party does this, they have to accept that in return for the money, businesses or individuals who have that kind of cash to pay for that kind of access don't simply just want to turn up, Mike, and sit down and just like have a chat about the weather or
a couple of croissants and coffee.
Couple of croissants. They expect something in return.
Yeah.
They expect to be able to influence policy. They have worries and concerns that bother them.
And if there's a current sort of conversation going on about, I don't know, VAT rates in a particular industry, you know, they want to get it done to the best of their capabilities, right?
But of course, the danger is that, you know, this is the Labour Party's close links, and it will be the Labour Party that can potentially profit from this, where, of course, the individuals that hold the meetings are in government, and they are there to serve not just the Labour Party,
it's corrupt,
but everybody,
isn't it? At the end of the day, I mean, without wishing to accuse anybody of corruption, it's a corrupt practice, shall we say? You know, because what it does is it gives people access because they've got money to influence government policy. Yeah. I mean, there's one piece here where it says a lobbyist told an undercover reporter about a meeting that he had one of his clients had with Jonathan Reynolds, the business secretary, aka the fake solicitor. You know, I wouldn't want a meeting with him either. You know, other than to just, you know, sit in a room and abuse him for 5 minutes and go, you know, get lost. You know, I'll give you 500 quid, come in, and I'll call you a liar and a man who told us that you were a solicitor when you actually weren't. Now you can go. Thanks very much indeed.
It's unclear as to where the money is.
I'll pay 500 quid for that, actually, I would. I could offer it
but
to you.
Where's the money? It's unclear, in fact, where the money's going.
Well, it's clearly going into the coffers, presumably, of the government, right?
Yeah, or of the government or the Labour Party.
Well, either or. Either or.
You know, they're not...
Let's talk about the civil service. Piece of the time. Civil service is losing more than 4 million working days to staff sickness every single year. This is unbelievable. Yeah. Absence rates have risen by more than 10% in some departments. Latest figures suggest Whitehall is on track to report its highest ever staff sickness level, surpassing the previous peak of 8.3 days a year lost per employee. That's unbelievable, isn't it? Only in the civil service can you get away with that.
That's going on for what, 2 weeks a year?
Yeah.
Average per employee.
Well, in their case, because they only do about 2 days a week, it's more like 4 weeks, isn't it?
And then you could average that out with a bit of working from home.
Yeah.
You could probably average.
Yeah.
You could probably
3 to 4 weeks a year. It's like a month off sickness every year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah. 4 million working days.
And they're quitting, and there's another page on page 14. 1 in 10 businesses say staff now quit after being told to stop working from home.
Yeah.
People just moving, you know, people just no longer, this is according to the British Chambers of Commerce, found 9% of firms had employees who had quit over working from the office.
And these are people who say that these are demands that are being made of them which are unfair.
Because, you know, COVID's over.
Right.
The pandemic's done.
Yeah.
You can come back into the office now. No, I'll just quit my job.
41% of employers thought remote working made employers less productive. And I mean, look, we've had this argument for a long time, ever since lockdown, really. And there's no question that there are some jobs that you can do from home. I get that, right? Yeah. And some people will always argue that they do better at home. I don't believe that. I think you'll probably be much more productive if you went to an office. But I understand that there are some jobs you can do from home. But mostly, particularly public sector jobs, in my view, should be done in an office environment, because we're paying for a service which we're frankly not getting.
Yeah. And this is, you know, when it comes to civil service, this is taxpayers' money.
Yeah, exactly.
This is you know, this is money that
it's our money.
It's our money.
It's our money.
Yeah.
Can we finish up with, I mean, Harry's charity is on the front page of the Mail. Apparently, damning probe into Harry's charity criticises all sides. Harry's not happy, apparently.
No.
And he's quit this charity. This is the one in Africa, right? The probe said it could find no evidence of widespread or systemic bullying or harassment, including misogyny or misogynoir, which is that really ridiculous word about black misogyny, apparently, at Centre Bali. However, it also criticised the trustees, including Harry, who resigned en masse in March after the furore blew up. So, once again, it's more bad news for Harry, isn't it?
It's bad news for Harry. I mean, as a source close to Harry has told The Times, he's basically devastated that the chair has been allowed to succeed with a hostile takeover of the charity. I mean, the charity's done. And
charity's finished.
It's finished, and it's sad because this was set up, you know, by Prince.
It was
Harry,
meant to be in the memory of his mother, wasn't it?
In memory of his mother, to help help children in Africa, and it seems to have. Certainly
it's collapsed. He's ruined it, as he's ruined everything else in his life. One final one. Broken Britain strikes again. Page 17 of the Mail. This is yesterday at Heathrow. Yeah. Queues and queues and queues of traffic and people, because apparently that tunnel, which everybody knows that you go through after you see that big plane, sort of, you know, model plane outside.
What could go wrong with a tunnel?
They say a technical fault.
How do you have a technical fault in a tunnel?
I don't know.
Well, you've got to turn on some lights.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm not even sure they've got lights in there. I can't remember. I don't think
quite a short tunnel.
It's a very short tunnel. You get through it in about 30 seconds.
Who's running Heathrow? He seems to be like
Danish bloke who likes sleeping.
He went back to bed.
He's able to lie in
after the whole place.
The tunnel's shut, huh? What's that? I was sleeping. I will have.
Don't interrupt my lying.
I know. Crikey, you should go to Glastonbury. Theo, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed.